Welcome to SourceCAD. In this video, Paul Muhindi will show you the step-by-step method of making a custom family in Revit architecture. Essentially, he'll show you the steps of making a simple table and two chairs like this one as a Revit family. So with that, let's get started.
In this video, we'll be using the Autodesk Revit 2024. So back on our home page, which is basically under this option here, or you can navigate to this page by hitting on Ctrl D on your keyboard, you'll find this layout. On our far left hand corner, we have two main options. Our first option being models and the second option being families. So what are models when it comes to Revit? Basically, models are items that hold in the entire project. So in this case, we can be able to see this sample that usually comes from the Autodesk website, where we have a whole project inside it, the same with the structural, electrical, so on and so forth. So basically, models can be able to withhold multiple families within it. But when it comes to families, which is our second option, these are small basic items that you can be able to fine tune or tailor make or customize, and you can be able to add them into your models. So you cannot add your models into families, but you can add your families into models. So having understood that, let's come up with our new families. So at the bottom here, we have a sample of families that we have from Autodesk. So we have like these system families, we have this structural family, which is a truss, something of the sort, and then we have this architecture family, and we have this simple one that we've just been drafting. So in the event that you create your family, it will be stored here, or you can be able to find it here easily, but it will be stored within your PC. So having said that, how do you come up with a new family? You just simply navigate to this area. So once you click on this option called new, you'll be able to create a new file from a template that usually comes from Autodesk. But if you already have a family saved in your PC, you can simply open by clicking on this option. But in this video today, we'll be creating a new one. So just simply click on new, and this option will be shown. So how do you get to this folder if it does not come up? So for my case, I have it under the folder that I have saved my software, where it's under this disk, under Revit, under content, and then we have the family templates, then English. But for your case, maybe if you're using the English Imperial, you'll be able to find it here. But for this video, we'll be using the metric system. So I'll just simply go back to this folder, and under this, you'll find so many options or so many templates. Electrical, we have duct, we have fire alarms, we have furniture, we have models, generic lighting, so on and so forth. So you need to understand what are you working on. But if you're working on a complex structure or something complex that you have no template to use, you can just simply use the generic system or a generic model. But for our case, because you're focusing on furniture, we can just use furniture. So I'll just select furniture. I'll have a simple preview. These are just basically our reference planes that are being shown here, and you'll find that the file type is an .rft file. So just once selected, you'll just find the same name here, and then I'll just simply click on open once. Once I click on open, these are basically the options that are available under the family creation window. So we'll find create, insert, annotate, view, manage, add-ins, and any other plugins that I had added. So under create, we have various types of panels with various types of options that I'll be taking you through later on in the video. But mainly the ones that we'll be using is extrusion, where we can be able to create a 3D solid by extruding a 2D shape. So we'll be creating our counter table using this extrusion, as well as our table legs. You can also use blend if you want to have complex and beautiful shapes within your project. You can be able to use this option, and so many other options that we have. You can also use insert if you want to bring in other families. If you want to bring in other families already saved within your PC, you can just simply load them from here, or even from your Autodesk Family Cloud, or you can even import PDF and so on and so forth, so that you can be able to use it as a template or as a background for your design. You can also use annotate, where you can be able to place your dimensions, or even give more detailed if you prefer, or even search, or even place text. And under view, you can just simply change your views if you prefer, but I usually like working with this project browser, which we already have down here. And under manage, we can just simply use so many other options, such as bringing in material. We can even set ID. We can use Dynamo. So if you're interested on learning how to use Dynamo, make sure to check down in the description. I have linked an entire course that we have been using Dynamo to come up with amazing, complex and standard items that can be used within Revit. And then under add-ins, you can just find what you have, like transmit. You can be able to transmit your model, so on and so forth. And these are just basically other plugins like so. But under modify, we can be able to use the align, mirror, rotate, copy, so on and so forth. So now let's get started. How do we come up with our family? So the first thing that I'm gonna do, I'm gonna check on my units before saving. So simply hit on UN or navigate to manage, and under manage you can just simply find project units. So click on this option once and this will pop up. So for our case, I just want to change my distance. I prefer using millimeters, so I'll click this, navigate to my millimeters. I'll make sure my rounding up is to the 0 decimal places. I don't need a symbol for this. I'll just click on OK, and that is all the changes that we'll be making for now. So I'll click on OK. Once that's done, let's just save this drawing. So click on save once, navigate to the folder where you want it saved. So for my case, I will be saving it under this specific folder. I can just call it as picnic table, or depend on how you want to call it. I can call it source code. So I'll be saving it as this. I'll go to options and I'll change my backup to 1. Then I'll click on OK. Then I'll simply click on save once. So once that's done, we already have our basic project of this family saved. So we can find it up here, source code, picnic table, so on and so forth. So we'll be working under this specific window, which is a reference level. So if you're to go to the 3D, you'll find it that it's currently empty because we have nothing. If you go to the front, you'll find that we have one level and one line going from top to bottom, and to the left view is basically more or less the same thing. You can also find the same control or the same navigation options from here. So we'll be focusing mainly on the reference level, and then I'll show you how to use the front or the left to come up with the vertical levels. So under this area, we want to start with our table. How are we going to come up with our table? So I'll simply navigate back to the Create tab, and I want to emphasize on the importance of reference planes. Reference planes are crucial for defining the geometry and the placement of our model. In the Create tab, we'll find it under the data, and it's basically accessed also using a keyboard shortcut of RP. Once you click on this option once, this window will be selected. So we are under modify, place reference plane, and we have two options of placing our reference plane, either by drawing a line or by picking lines. But for this situation, let's go with just drawing lines. So I'll use this option, and under subcategory we have none for now. So now let's just start placing our lines so that we come up with our table, and I'll just be placing it adjacent or parallel to this main line. So I'll just place my first line here. I'll make sure that my degree is actually 90 degrees. So the first line there. So if you click there, it's not a chain, it terminates there, and then I can place the next one. I'm just eyeballing it here. I'm not placing it at a specific distance from the center, and I'll tell you why in a few. So I've hit on escape a number of times on my keyboard to cancel from the command, and then I'll use the keyboard shortcut RP just to bring it back in, and then I'll just place it on this other side. So I'm just showing you different methods that you can be able to use to bring in your reference plane. So once that's done, we have something of the sort. We have lines crisscrossing one another, and it somehow looks untidy. So now let's make it look tidy. So how do we do this? We can either use this option of align dimension, which you can access from here, or you can simply go to annotate, select aligned, or the one I usually prefer, you can use this option or key in DI on your keyboard. So I'll click on this once, and I'll place my first dimensions. So remember, we're using aligned. So I'll click the first one, the center, and the end, then just click anywhere. So in this case, I can just place it out there, then the edge, the last one, and the very last one, and then just place it somewhat over there. Then I'll hit on escape. Now I'll place for this other side. So this one, this one, this one, place it outside. Then the extreme end ones, I'll place it there. After that, I'll simply hit an escape to cancel out from that command completely. The next thing I'll do, I'll select this one, the one that we have 2 dimensions like so. Then I'll click on this EQ. Right now it's cancelled, it just means equal distance. So if I click on it, it will make it equal. So in the event that I was to give this specific like distance of this specific item, let's say if I want to go with 900, click away, this is 900 as well as this one 900. So that's the importance of EQ. So let's do the same thing for this one. I'll select this and it will highlight the entire annotation, then click on EQ, and just like that, now we have our lines equally spaced throughout. So the next thing is to make this become a smart dimension. And what I mean by this is just to make it parametric. So to do that, it's quite easy. What I'll do, I'll select now the outer dimension, which is this 1800 for a case. For your case, it might be different. And then this contextual ribbon will pop up, which is modify dash dimension. And I'll navigate to label dimension panel. And under this, I'll click on this small option, which is a create parameter. So I'll click on this option once, and then I'll just key in my name or the name of this specific parameter. So this can be the width of our table. So you can just use W, or for your case, if you prefer long names, you can use the entire name. So for better remembrance in future, we can just use the entire name. Once that's done, I'll make sure that it's under the dimension category because this is dimension. But if you're using different options such as electrical forces and so on and so forth, you just select from here. But for our case, it's dimension, and then I'll click on OK. Once that's done, you'll see this item or this specific dimension labeled as width is equals to that. And in the event that I was to go now to this option under the modify window, under the property panel, if I click on family types, I'll find this option has been added here. So basically we can be able to adjust our dimension of our width from here. So I can key in 900, click on apply, and just like that, it's been modified automatically. So let's click on OK and move back to our model. Let's do the same for this, and we're gonna call this length. So I'll go back to the same option, key in length. Once that's done, I'll make sure it's under dimensions. The group parameter is under dimensions, and I'll click on OK. If I go back to our family types, I can now change my length, let's say to 2000 millimeters, which is 2 meters. I can click on OK, and we have seen that it has been able to be modified. So right now we already have our parametric options and they're running well. And if we go to the front, nothing looks different. So let's now come up with a reference plane where we can be able to place our legs for our table. And how do we come up with this? Remember, RP on your keyboard to bring in the reference plane shortcut or command. We can now use pick lines. Then we can give an offset of 700 millimeters, which is basically 70 centimeters or 0.7 meters. And then I'll just select this reference level, and just like that, it has already been placed. Then you'll find this option, which is basically telling you to click to name or edit parameter. So I'll just click on this and I'll name it as level or height. Let's name it as height because this is the height of the table. Then I'll simply click away. If I hit on escape, then select on this line. If I hit on escape and select on this line, I'll find under the properties panel or this window, under the identity data, under name, we'll have it as height. So it has already saved it as height. So let's go back now to our reference level. And from here, let's now start placing our table top. So how to place our tabletop? Simply navigate to the create tab, navigate to extrusion for this case. So we want to extrude a 2D object to become 3D. So what is extrusion start? So for our case, because we want it to be as rather good and solid table, we can go with a table of 40 millimeters, and then I'll just simply go to the draw panel. I'll select rectangle, so I want to work with the rectangle, and then I can just draw any place inside here. You can choose to draw on this point of intersection, but I prefer drawing inside so that I can be able to use the align command. If I draw here, sometimes even if I lock my item or my object, sometimes it does not lock in very well. So that's why I'll just draw somewhat inside here, something of the sort, and then I'll just hit on escape a couple of times. Then using the align command, I'll simply click on it. We're going to start by selecting first the reference plane, then the item of extrusion that we have drawn. So select first this item, this main green line item, then select this line. Once you have done that, make sure to click on this lock symbol so that you lock this parameter with that parameter. So it's not going to be shifting. I'll do the same with this. Click on that, then that, and do the same for all of them all around the table. So I'm first selecting this and then locking. If you forget doing that, you might lose that specific option. So once that's done, now let's click on done. So how to click on done? Just simply go back to the modify/extrusion, then click on check finish edit mode. Let's go to our 3D view. So right now it's really small. Click on perspective view, then hit on escape, then hit on perspective view again. And right now we can be able to see our table. So this is basically our tabletop, nothing else on top. Let's go back to the front side, and we can see that our table is actually above this reference level. That is not what we want. We want it to be at the bottom or the top to align with this specific reference level. So to do this, you can just simply use align as well, or you can just play around with the extrusion options that we have here by using -40. But let me show you how to use a line. So simply click on the line, select on the reference plane, then click on the top of the table. Right now it's saying that it's too thin, so that is an issue that usually happens because it's now moving from 40 going to 0. So that's the challenge that we have. So for us to mitigate this, simply click on cancel, and now let's use that option of aligning. So I'll click on this object. So instead of 40, use -40 and just hit on apply, and just like that, it has been exchanged from +40 to -40. And so far it looks really good. So now let's change some parameters. We see if there will be some changes. So I'll simply click on close the front, and then I'll be left with reference level and V1. Then I'll hit on WT on my keyboard so that I have them side by side, something of the sort. And let's now go to our family types. I'll click on this. Now let's change some measurement. So let me just move this about here, and let's change some measurements. So this we can try to go with 2500, while the width can be around 800. Then I'll simply hit on apply, and just like that, you can see that now it's moving in accordance to the reference plane. It means everything is okay so far. So I'll simply click on OK, and now let's come up with our table legs. How to do this? To do this is rather simple. Simply go back to the Create tab, use our reference plane option again. So I'll click on this, then I'll use an offset. So I want to use an offset of only 50 millimeters, and I'll start offsetting only here the center. So this is the first option. I'll place it there, then I'll hit on tab. Then I can place on this other side as well. So that one. Then I want to also place it on the opposite side. So I'll click on this so that it goes on the opposite side as well. The same with this, from that point up to around there. Then I'll hit on escape. So the same thing that we did with these others, let's do it for also this specific point. So to do that, it's rather simple. I'll just simply go to the align dimension. I'll click on the first, the center, and the end. Just like that, place it about here outside. Then the extreme ends, the first and the last, outside. Let's do the same on this other side as well. Place it about here, and that one, and outside. So right now all our dimensions are kind of jumbled up. Let's just increase the scale or reduce our scale so that everything looks clean and nice, just something like so. So now let's come up with our properties. So for this one, I'll hit on equal distance, the same with this, equal distance, and now let's give this dimensions a parameter. So I'll click on this exterior dimension, then simply navigate to label, and now I'm going to create a new parameter, and for this we can call it table base. So it can be table base 1, or we can actually select all of them first. So I'll select that as well as this one. I'm holding down my control key, and then I'll go back to create parameter, table base. I'll make sure it's under dimension, and I'll click on OK. So far so good, everything looks okay, and we can now add our table stand. To do that, I'll simply go back to create, and for this case I'll be using the blend option. So I'll click on blend. This modify window will pop up, so modify / create bend base boundary. Then I'll go with the rectangular option to start with. Then I'll simply make sure I change this from 250 to 700, and once that's done, I'll just simply do the same thing as we did. I'll draw first inside, something of the sort. Now use the align command, align outside with that, lock reference plane with that, line reference plane with that, reference plane with that, table, and then once that's done, I'll just hit on escape. So once that's done, we can just go to edit now the top. So just to change how our post will be looking like. If you even have a cursor over this, it will show you an example on how you can edit your base. So I'll click on this. So I can use the option that I prefer. I can use the inscribed polygon. So I can just click on inscribe. Then I want it to be at the center, from the center, because it's from the center. And then I can select on the place that I prefer. So maybe I can first place it here. Once that's done, I can just select it. If I wanted to rotate it, then I'll rotate from that point. Let's say for 5 degrees, something of the sort. So I'm content with how it looks like, because it's just roughly. You can even change the number of inscribed or sides that you want, but I prefer going with 6 for now. And once that's done, you can just simply click on done. So we can simply see on our 3D view that it's actually on top of the table, and that's not where we wanted it to be placed. So how are we gonna change the place where it has been placed? So simply go back to our property browser down here. I'll be using this site, so I'll activate this site so that we add a new tab, and I want to add the front. So I'll double click on front, and it will be added here. So the next thing, I'll just select this, and from this modify tab, we'll have this option of work plane. So from work plane, you can either edit your work plane by editing your work plane. So I'll select this, then I can change my reference level to reference height, then click on OK. And just like that, it has been shifted from the initial level that we had the reference, to this other level. And right now it's inside this table, no issue. We can be able to join it. So I'll click on join and select this item and that item, and just like that, they have been joined. So I can hit on escape just to move out of that command. So just to look at our table, it's coming up really well. So far so good, it looks good. If you want to add more items, you can be able to add on it, but for my case, I am content with this. So we can be able to reduce this length from this maybe to something making a bit more sense. So from the length of 2.5 meters or 2500, we can go with the length of 800 and the width of 600. Hit and apply, just like that. Looks really good. So that's how it looks like. To me, I really like it. It looks really good. I can even change the parameters of our table. So table base, we can change it from 100 and make something smaller, maybe 50. Hit on apply, and just like that, you can see how it looks like. But I prefer having a solid table, something firm. So I'll hit on apply on 80. So it looks something really nice, something of the sort. And let's try to put something crazy like 1000. Hit on apply, and that's the way it looks like. So if you're interested on how to come up with a certain parameter where it cannot go exceedingly that level, just make sure to tell me down in the description, and I'll show you, and I'll come up with a video that has more in-depth settings that you can be able to use within your project. So I'll go back to 80, then hit on apply, and we'll have something of the sort. Then I'll simply click on OK. All right, so now we have our tabletop here. We can visualize it. It looks really good. We have our table stand, so it looks really nice. This is the geometry that we are going with. We can even we can add a base down here, so that we can do afterwards. So we can also add another base down here just to make our table more stable. So to do that, I'll just simply use the same options here. So I'll just simply use the reference plane. So to do that, I'll just simply go back to create, and under this I'll use reference plane, and I'll be given the same options. So for this case, I want to do an offset of 200 from these ones that I have here. So I'll just press on tab so that I can be able to shift it on the opposite direction, but this distance is actually quite big. Yeah, so let's work with something like 50. So we'll be using 50 from this reference place that we have here. So just make sure you click there, hit on spacebar, and then I'll just make sure that it surpasses the ones that we have here, so that I don't make any confusion. The same on this other side, I'll just extend it. The same on this other side, I'll extend it. The same on this other side, I'll make sure to extend it. So once that's done, let's use the line again. So the long one, the center, the long one, then I'll place it out there, then that one all the way outside there, that one, center, that one, place it outside here, then all the way outside here. The same with this one at the center, outside, then place it about here, then all the way outside there. So once that's done, remember, just click on it, EQ. So we want just to make sure that it's at the center. So this other side we have not, we actually did not need for this other side. So I can just simply click on that and delete this 180. So I have to be careful. So I can hit on tab to cycle through my selection. So once I am satisfied, or once I'm sure that I have this 180 selected, then I'll delete it. Then I'll be left with only two sides, something of the sort. Even for this one, it's okay. So once that's done, I'll select this and that. Now let's call it or give it a parameter. So I'll just hold down control so that I have both of them selected. Then I'll give it a parameter as table base. I'll make sure it's under dimension. I'll click on OK. And now let's go back here. Can we find it? Yes, we can find it. But we had already given another table base because it was this one. So we can call it table foundation. So to edit it, you just click on this edit parameter, and then I'll just call it foundation. Then I'll just simply click on OK. And just like that, it will be edited. Then I'll click on OK. So now this is our table foundation. So let's come up with something. I'll go to create, I'll go to extrude, use the same option. So this is the one that it's quite easy to lock in place. Then I'll use that to that point. Then I'll simply use the line. So from reference to that item, reference to the extrude print, reference to the extrude print, reference to the extrude print, and lock all of them up. Once that's done, you can select the extrusion end. So for this, because it's the base, we can go with something like 50. Then hit on apply, then simply click on check. But you'll notice that it will come at the top. The same drill applies. So we're gonna just simply go to the front view. I'll make sure I click it here. Then I'm gonna just use the align. So AL. So I want to align this level to that. And just like that, it has moved from top to bottom. But that is not exactly what we wanted. So what to do? I'll just simply select this item. Then I'll just simply go to modify. So I'll select this item. I'll just simply go to edit work plane, click on work plane, then change it to height So this is the height, then click on OK, and just like that it has moved all the way down. So if you want it to be added at the very bottom here, you can basically play around with this. Instead of just 50, you can go with -50, and once applied it will go at the very bottom here. But I do not like that because I want us to be within this working range. And once that's done, I can just unite this. So I'll click on join so that I unite this stand with this base. And just like that, now they are one common item. And if we are going to go to these parameters, so let's go to the family types. Let's play around with our foundation. We want a foundation of 400. Hit on apply. Just like that, only the foundation is being changed. And we can use something like maybe 300. Hit on apply. Just like that, only that is being changed. Wonderful. Now let's go to the last step, which is just adding our tables. And how do we do this? Let me just make this 1:50 so that everything is crispy and small. So let's add our tables. I'll just simply go to insert. Under insert, we have this load from library. I'll go to load family. I'll click on these ones. And for my case, I'll be using my furniture, which are under Autodesk or program data under local disk C, Autodesk RVT 2023. For your case, it might be different libraries, English, UK, furniture, sitting. And under this, I'll be going with simply the dining, sitting. So there are some of these families that you cannot change where you'll be placing your specific seat. Let me show you what I mean. So if I was to go with dining, I'll click on open. It will be upgraded to 2024. How do we place it? You might wonder. Just simply go to create, and under the model panel, simply click on component. And once you click on component, you'll have this option of placing it. And you'll find on our properties, you have this option of elevation from level. And for our case, we want it to be -700, something of the sort. So I can place it. So you can clearly see it here in real time as we place it. You can place it just somewhere off here for now. Remember, the outer boundaries is our table, so I'll place it around there. Then hit on escape. And we can clearly see that it has been placed at the level that we wanted. But let's try to bring in another different family. So I'll go back to insert, click on load family. And for this case, I want to come up with this tool bar. So I'll click on open. It will be upgraded. I'll go to create tab, then the model panel, then click on component. So I'll change my family here to bus tool. And if I were to try to place it here, we don't have that option of the elevation from level. It's locked out. So we cannot just place it here, because if we're placing it here, it would just be simply placed at the very top of this table, which is our reference level. And this is not what we want. We want something of the sort. So I'll select on it, just delete it on my key. Once that's done, let's now lock this in place by using align. So let's now lock this seat with the table. So select the main line, then select this center line of this furniture. Make sure you lock it in place. Then select the other main reference line. Then select this line that we have on the seat. Then lock it in place. So right now we have locked our seat with our table. And now we can be able to create a new seat on this other side. Or even before that, let's just do some test and see that everything is right. So here we have our length. So let's play around with the length. We see how it will go. Go to family types. Let's play around with the length. Let's make it 2 meters. Hit on apply. We can see that actually the table is moving with the seat. So far so good. Let's go back to 1200. Click on OK. Now let's place the other one. Click on this specific family. You can use mirror using draw line. So I'll just do that. Once that's done, now let's just simply use the align command. I'll just make it a bit misaligned, something of the sort. Then align main reference to the center of the seat, lock it in place, main reference to this area of the seat, then lock it in place. So right now things are looking beautiful. Let's also place on this other side. I'll just select on it, then CS to create similar. I'll make sure to change my elevation to 700, actually -700. Then hit on my spacebar so that I can be able to place this in place. I'll make sure that it's first misaligned so that I can align it later. The same with this. I'll just hit on my spacebar so that I can be able to rotate it, then escape. So AL, hit on the main reference, center of the seat, lock it in place, main reference. I'm not selecting the table, the main reference, then that area of the seat. The same with this one, main reference plane, lock the center of the seat, main reference plane, then this area of the seat. So right now I cannot see it. I do not want to guess it. So I'll just simply take it all the way back because we have not currently locked this one. So AL, main reference. So this is a main reference to main reference line to this area of the seat, then lock it. So once that's done, let's play around with our dimensions. So under this area, I can just simply change my length from 1200. Let's go with something like 1800. I can play around with our width from 600. Let's go with 800. Our table foundation, let's make it more stable. So let's go with something like 400. Our table base, instead of 80, let's make it more strong. Let's go with something like 120, then hit and apply. Just like that, everything has been updated in real time. And that's the power that we have with Revit, and it looks really beautiful. And this is just simply how we create our Revit family of our picnic or our dining table without just complicating it, just making it simple. And if you want to add your materials, it's quite easy. You just select your specific family item, or you can just hover your cursor over this item, then hit on the tab so that you can be able to select every single item that is intertwined to that. Simply navigate to the properties panel, click on categories or this materials and finishes, click on this ellipse option, and Revit will bring up this material browser. So we want to come up with furniture. I'll go to home, I'll go to, this is architecture, engineering, construction materials. I'll just simply click on this drop down. I'll navigate down to wood, and I want to go with something beautiful. Let's see what we have here, or you can also come up with your very own. So walnut looks quite good. I'll go to appearance. So this is how it looks like, something of the sort. So this is how it looks like, looks really good. So once content with how it looks, I can just simply hit on OK, or I can just simply load it to project. So I'll load it in, then simply hit on use render appearance. So this is a render appearance, then I'll simply hit on apply, then OK. So once that's done, I can just change my view to fine, then to textures, and that's the way it looks like. It looks really beautiful. I can use different materials for different areas. So for this one, I can use a different material. So instead of walnut, I can use maybe metal. So I can go down here. So we want to work with metal. So we have metal here. Select metal, the specific metal that you prefer. Let's say cast iron. So cast iron. So this is cast iron. I can use this, or I can use the unfinished iron, or just simply metal deck. So I can use metal deck. I'll select that. This is how it looks like. So this is right with me for the graphics. You can also use the render material. I'll hit and apply, hit on OK, and it has actually changed for each and everything because they were unioned, but I can be able to separate this one later on. But you can always change or save it as different items. So let's say if you want to work with this being metal, so we can be able to reduce the sizes of these extrusions to make it a bit smaller. So I can just change it, let's say to 20, and maybe this one we can be able to edit under this instead of 120. This one, because it's a metal section, we can go with something like 50, then hit and apply. So something of the sort. And the base, instead of this thickness, I can just simply select on it and also go with something like, instead of 50, I can just simply go with something like 20, so that I use the same command. And once that's done, I can just simply save it as metallic dining or metallic table. And if I want to use the wood, so this is metallic, so these are the options for metallic. then I can simply hit on apply, hit on OK. And if I want to use a different material, so if I select on this and change it from metal deck to walnut, hit on OK, and I can change, let's change now the parameter of these two extrusions from, let's say 20 to something like 40, then hit on apply, then go to our family types, change the base to 120 was really nice, hit on apply. Once I'm satisfied with that, I'll just create a new one as wooden table, then simply OK, then apply, then OK. Alright, so once that's done, all we have to do is just now load it to a project. So now we have wooden and metallic table. Just simply hit on cancel, and then I'll just now open a new project. So how do you go about that? I'll just simply first close on this, and then I'll just make sure first I save it. So right now it's saved, and then I'll just go to my home tab. I want to open a new project. Any project will do. So I'll just simply click on new, or I can use an existing project that I have. So here I have a project. I'm just currently opening it. It's been upgraded from 2023 to 2024. So depending on the size of the project, it might take a few seconds or a few minutes. So we can see the status at the bottom left-hand corner. Right, so here we have our project. We can try to place our dining table around here. So to do that, how do I go about this? So in our family, you'll find these two options: load into project and load into project and close. So if you click on this, it is gonna close away from this family completely, and it's gonna load it into this other project. But for our case, let me do away with this 3D, so that I'll be left with level 0 and view 1. But for our case, we want to go with just load it into this project so that we can be able to change some settings if we want. So back into this family, so I'll click on this and these options will change. If I click on this, because this is a model, all the options will be different because now we have everything. So back to this family, I'll just click on load into project. From this dialog window, or sometimes if you have multiple projects, it will ask you which project to place it in. So for our case, this is where we want to place it. I'll place it about here. And if I was to create a camera, so I'll just go to this windows here, drop down, and I'll create a camera from this point to that point. And then I'll just simply use the fly command just to look down. So currently it has been placed at this level. It's actually sinking into the ground. So let's use a bit realistic colors so that we can be able to see how things look like. And then I'll just simply change the level at which it has been placed. So this is the level. I'll click on that. And then for this case, I think because it's at level 0, I can change this maybe 700 from that point. And yeah, now it looks good. If I hit an escape, I believe it's now sitting exactly on the floor as it should be. So this is just a simple renovation happening here. And yeah, this table can be able to fit in here quite easily. And if I want to move it, let's say to another room, let's say if I want to move maybe these tables, this furniture maybe around here, so that we have this dining set coming here. So let's go back to this view. Let's try and walk around. So I'm using my arrow keys just to move around. So yeah, it looks quite good. I'm really happy with it. And if I wanted to change anything, so I can just come here and change it, maybe the size of this foundation. But even without going back to the family, still within this model, if I was just to click on it, I'll get this option. So currently it's showing metallic, but if I select wooden, this is the option that it should be bringing. And if I was to click on it, I can also still edit the type by clicking this. I can change the, let's say, the foundation here. Let's say we want to go with 600. I want to go with a width of, let's say, a meter. I want to go with the length of, let's say my space is asking for 1500. If I hit on apply, everything will be reshaped accordingly. If I want to go with a foundation of, let's say, 200, just like that, everything is being reshaped accordingly to what we want. and that is what we were targeting to get. Alright, so right now we have managed to save and everything looks good.
So that was all about making a custom family in Revit architecture. If you are new to Revit and want to learn it right from scratch, then sign up for the free Revit Architecture Essentials course that I mentioned before in the video. You can learn all about Revit architecture right from scratch in the mentioned course, and you'll also get a certificate of completion when you finish the course 100%. The link of Revit Architecture Essentials course is in the description of this video, and it's also in the pinned comment. Finally, let me know which topic you want us to cover in the next video, and I'll see you soon in another one.